Hi, everyone. I'm Jamie Hiles.
I'm Lydia Judy.
And I'm Derek Lemaster.
And this is Scream Bloody Movies, the podcast that you come to for your horror news and a movie review each week. And also the place where Sam comes to party.
Is it Sam Adams?
Not Sam Adams, Sam from today's movie. If you don't know who Sam is, you need to GTFO.
What does that mean?
Oh my God. How are you guys doing today? How are you doing today, Lydia?
I'm doing great today.
Great.
How are you guys doing?
I'm good. I'm pretty good. Long day at work, ready to get down with the killings. Derek, how are you doing today?
I'm good, man. I passed a test that was really hard. I had to get an 80%. I got an 82. So now I'm not going to lose my job.
Squeaking by.
Hey, it was a super hard test, so.
You know what? Shapes and colors sometimes are difficult.
I know, but when you add in the squiggly lines, it gets real hard.
That's when it's impossible. That's when it becomes impossible. You know, good thing they didn't ask you about, spelling.
I'm going to keep this PG-13, otherwise I'd be giving you the bird.
I'll give it to you. There it is.
I don't think we're a PG-13 podcast.
We are certainly not, and it's my fault. I drop F-bombs sometimes, frequently. I don't help it. I can't help it. But we're discussing horror movies, guys.
That's true.
Yeah.
With all of the blood, the guts, and the bubulars.
The language is the least of our concerns.
Yeah,
right.
Especially when we did a podcast last week where we literally said, eat a bowl of fuck, festering fuckwads, and I believe the other one was the cool breeze that came out of Roger's butthole.
That was the best one.
That's my favorite. Did you guys like that in the text chain, by the way?
Yes. I was like, what is this? Why is he texting me this?
Just because it popped in my head.
Oh my gosh. I got to tell this because it's a great story. So, like, back in the day when we all had razor phones.
Ah, yes. The razors.
Yeah, so Jamie and I had watched an inappropriate movie where a guy farts. Right? In the middle of stuff. But anyway, I sent that to Jamie's brother when he was in high school. And he opened it up while he was in class, and all you hear is this these adult noises, and then after. Oh my God, he told me about it later in life, but it was hilarious. I'm gonna have to ask him about that next time I see him.
That's great. Yeah, that was Zachary. That's brilliant. I do remember that. I forgot about that. I'm glad you remembered that. So
I will never forget that.
No, that's a good one. So, guys, we got some horror news, and for the channel and for the show, we are actually, this is the first episode, technically, the second episode of our Halloween series that's going to be running all month. That's exciting. So we're getting all into all the spookies. So look out for some cool Halloween content. And Halloween Kills comes out in a couple weeks. We might have something for you on that. And by might, I mean we will. So let's start with the horror news. There's not a lot this week, guys. I mean, there's some, but there's some cool stuff that has dropped. So we'll start with this one. So do you guys remember the short-lived channel called QB? Do you guys remember this? Like shorts?
Sounds familiar.
It does sound familiar.
It was it was a couple years ago, QB. Well, QB had an original series, a Sam Raimi series, called 50 States of Fright. Well, now we learned that it lives again, and it's now a Roku original series. Produced by the great Sam Raimi. This Halloween, with the existing episodes, will be premiering on October 15th. So it has it's launched in 2000, the show will premiere on October 29th, Friday of the new season, but the existing episodes will premiere on October 15th. An anthology series produced by Sam Raimi. Does that sound like something we would be into?
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. Sam who? The guy that
Sam
did
who?
Spider-Man?
Talking about a
Yeah.
lot of Sams today.
That's how they know him. The guy who did Spider-Man?
So, yeah, I mean, that's exciting. I'll definitely check that. I don't have Roku TV, unfortunately. So we'll have to see what we can do to find it. But I'm interested in that. I'm interested in all things Sam Raimi horror. And Sam Raimi in general. I mean, into the... or Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness is directed by Sam Raimi, so that's going to be great. His return to the superhero genre. But that's for another podcast and another time. Guys, I don't know if your little hearts can handle this one. So, the original Scream house, the iconic house from the final act of Scream, is for a limited time on Airbnb with donations for the Trevor Project, which is for at-risk LGBTQ teens. So that's great.
That's awesome.
That's what it's for. But the ultimate Airbnb experience, David Arquette as Dewey will host three one-night stays for up to 4 people for only $5 a night. So you have to...
Did you say $5 a night?
I said 5. So what you have to do is you can request to book the 3 individual one-night stays, and then on the other one, it looks like you have to donate to the thing, is what it looks like. Let's see. How would we have to do this? So, during their stays, the guests will get to experience all of the scary elements: a virtual greeting check-in from Dewey, the chance to explore the house, a movie marathon with all 4 screens on VHS, by the way. Dedicated phone line for reaching Ghostface, classic 90s snacks, and a chance to take home Scream memorabilia. So, plus taxes and fees, it says. So I'm wondering, it looks like it's like a donation deal. We'll have to get more information on it. Once I do, I'll link it in the description when I post the episode. But guys, how awesome would that be?
That would be amazing.
Yeah, that would be amazing for someone who's not terrified of Scream.
I mean, I guess you might come at it from that perspective, sure. But there's a ton of nostalgia kind of wrapped up in that.
Yeah,
from
absolutely.
The 90s snacks to the dedicated phone line, the VHS tapes. Like, man, that would be a trip. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah,
does it say where this place is located at? Like
it's in California. It's Northern
California.
California.
Okay.
Yeah, Northern California. And the Derek, you and I have talked about this before. We would love to get together and have a VHS night. Just because I have several movies still on VHS, horror movies. I think it would be fun for us all to get together and watch these movies in the terrible VHS quality. I
don't even mind the VHS quality. You know, the one thing that I would miss, or that I don't miss about VHS?
Well, besides the quality. Yeah.
No, I don't even mind that. That is a secondary feature. Man, it's freaking rewinding and fast forwarding.
Rewinding and fast forwarding. And the only thing that sucks from a filmmaking perspective is the old pan and scan, where they cut the film like John Carpenter's Halloween, which is shot in ultra widescreen. 2:3:4. What the heck just happened? That was weird. But you have you have your aspect ratio, and then they shoot it they crop it so then you do like this weird pan thing. VHS. So, that's interesting. This is cool. Henry Thomas is starring in an upcoming horror movie called Crawl Space. It follows a family man who must fight for survival when he finds himself trapped in the crawl space of a remote Oregon cabin where ruthless poachers have stashed their fortune. So, first thoughts on I am excited that Henry Thomas has this second revival career of horror movies recently. I think he was great in both the Haunting series, and he's great in Dr. Sleep. What are your guys' thoughts on this, and will you watch it?
Sure. It kind of reminds me of a story that I heard recently, where this lady was not to get too sidetracked. This lady went that her and her husband were getting a divorce, and they had a timeshare, and she went to stay at it by herself. And then she, in the middle of the night, she was completely naked, and she got trapped in this closet. And I forget what trapped her in there, but she could not get out. It was pitch dark. She couldn't see anything, and she was trying to dig her way out, and then hit a water line, and
wow,
it started filling up. She never got out. She ended up passing away, but she almost did. She tried to burrow through the wall.
That's
to
tragic.
get out. Yeah. Anyway,
thanks for bringing everything down, man. By the way, when you said she was trapped in a closet, I was going to say with R. Kelly.
Oh, that's terrible.
That is terrible.
Lydia, your thoughts about the movie?
So I'm not sure. I can't picture who you're talking about.
Henry Thomas plays the younger version of the dad in The Haunting of Hill House, and he's also Elliot from E.T.
Oh, okay. Yes, I know exactly who you're talking about now.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's a really good actor.
Yeah.
So that'll be cool. I like the idea of the crawl space kind of thing because it's crawl spaces are terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
There's spiders. It's too small. You always feel like you're about to get stuck in a crawl space. I've only been in one crawl space, but it was
sounds
terrifying.
like it's a terrible one.
Yeah, it was.
Sounds like there's a reason that was the only one you went into.
Yeah, but it was my cousin's cat had some kittens down there, and I had to go see them. So it was for a good cause, but yeah, something about claustrophobia and how scary it could be in there with other stress and other people being in the house.
In. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I'm down for it too. This next bit is so there is a new Scott Dickerson who wrote and directed Sinister, and also wrote and directed the first Doctor Strange movie. Has a new movie with Ethan Hawke called The Black Phone, based off of a Joe Hill story. And I'm going to share this with you. So it comes out in January 2022. It's already been pre-screened with critics. Here's the log line for it. Finney Shaw, a shy but clever 13-year-old boy who's abducted by a sadistic killer and trapped in a soundproof basement where screaming is of little use. When a disconnected phone on the wall begins to ring, Finney discovers that he can hear the voices of the killer's previous victims, and they are dead set on making sure what happened to them doesn't happen to Finney.
Sounds spooky.
Sounds good, right?
It does.
I'm going to share this with you guys, and we'll put it up on the for the YouTube version. An image of the poster for this of the mask, created by Tom Savini. Tell me what you guys think of this.
Oh no!
That looks great.
Isn't that a fantastic mask?
Really spooky.
Yeah, it's a good. I love the hat, the glasses, and just the design of it is very spooky. I think if this movie turns out like we like we're hoping it will. If it's as good as people are saying, that'll become an iconic mask. Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of looks like the Joker.
A little bit, yeah.
It does. Kind of looks like the Man Who Laughs as well.
Show us what the Man Who Laughs looks like, Lydia. That's what he looks like. Yep. Conrad Veidt.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I'm excited about that. Are you guys excited about that movie?
I am now.
Yeah, looks good, right?
It does look good.
So for this next bit of news, I'm going to continue a saga that we have started a couple months ago, I think. Pretty much when we started the podcast. And we're continuing. That is the saga of Rob Zombie's The Munsters. We got some new Rob Zombie Munsters news. Yeah. Rob shared on his Instagram construction photos of 1313 Mockingbird Lane. Would you guys like to see said photos?
Sure.
Yes, please.
All right, let's share these. We'll pop these up for you guys too. Here we are on Rob's official Instagram. There it is. This was, last week.
Ooh,
Look at that.
it.
Yeah.
That's crazy that they literally build an entire neighborhood.
Yeah, I mean, it's on the back lot. I mean, look at the houses, the facades of the houses. But there's the house from what we have. There's the peak, of course, the famous peak on the ground there. Again, does this give you guys a little more hope for Rob Zombie's new Munsters movie?
Yeah, the more we talk about it, the more I just want to see it.
Yeah. Derek, you're muted, Derek. You always do it.
Every time.
I just want to see how badly he screws it up.
I think he's going to do a great job. I really do.
I hope I'm wrong and pleasantly surprised, but man, I gotta tell you.
Well, the reason I can tell you why I personally feel like he's going to do a great job. It's because Rob Zombie absolutely loves the Munsters. They mean as much to them as they probably do to you, Lee. They are, they're the Munsters. So with the high regard that he holds them in, I don't think he's going to do anything that would screw them up or what have you. So I'm excited for it.
How did he feel about Halloween?
Well,
he got a hold of that.
that's a different beast. That's about actual murderers. This is a silly comedy. Yeah, hopefully. I mean, I'm assuming that's what it's going to be, is a comedy. That's what the Munsters are.
Yeah.
Let's be real. So the last bit of news, I found this out today and it blew my mind. Are you guys ready for this? Okay. So, the Sci-Fi Channel has rebooted. On October 16th, they will release a new Slumber Party Massacre movie.
Oh.
With the Driller Killer.
That's awesome.
Sci-Fi?
Sci-Fi, yes. Sci-Fi is into the business of gory flicks these days. They're also the ones, them and USA are the ones releasing the new Chucky series as well. So after this episode, we will do a breakdown of the trailer. How's that sound to you guys?
Sure.
What are your thoughts on this before you see the trailer? What are your thoughts on there being a new Slumber Party Massacre movie, in one that pays homage to the original, which we haven't covered on here yet, but probably will at some point. Thoughts on it?
I feel like I'm more open to this one than some other, older horror movies that shouldn't be remade, probably. I feel like this one could probably use another.
Yeah. Derek, what are your thoughts?
Man, it just brings me back to my childhood.
What a childhood we had.
Yeah, I know, man. This one I probably saw on USA back in the day, on the Gilbert Gottfried's Up All Night.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's where I first saw the Toxic Avenger. So
yeah, I'm excited for this. I really will get into Slumber Party Massacre eventually, but it's a minor cult classic. I have a fondness for Slumber Party Massacre for sure. But the like you said, Lydia, this is a property that has name recognition, and has a nostalgic place, but also is not on the level of like Friday the 13th or Halloween or Nightmare on Elm Street. That you really don't want them to touch with a remake. You're like, no, just do another sequel or whatever, but leave that original alone. So this is definitely a movie that's primed for the picking. I do agree. And with that, that's all of the horror news this week. Yay! So, guys, tonight's movie. It's Mike Dougherty's 2007 Halloween, I'm going to say classic, Trick or Treat. And what we'll do first is what we usually do is we'll go and get your guys' thoughts, like your experience with Trick or Treat. We'll start with you, Lydia. Is this your first time watching Trick or Treat?
No, it is not. I've seen this one quite a few times. My first time watching it was in high school with my best friends, and we all just sat around and watched it and had a great time. So, I mean, you can't beat that, you know? That's memories that you just can't beat.
No, you're absolutely right. That's where it's at. Derek.
This is only like my second or third time seeing this movie.
Oh.
Yeah, I have seen it, and it was good the first time. I need to make it part of the rotation, especially around this time of year. But yeah, it's only like my second time. I don't have that connection to it yet.
I have watched this movie for a while. I mean, I think I had seen bits and pieces of it on TV and such in the early 2000s, but not actually watched the full thing. I didn't really seek it out until like in about 2013 or so. Mike Dougherty was a guest on the Movie Crypt, Adam Green, Joe Lynch's great podcast. And I listened to the episode and was like, oh yeah, I really want to rewatch Trick or Treat. So I did. And ever since then, so almost 10 years now, it's been in my Halloween rotation. It's one of the two movies I watch every single Halloween day, which is this and John Carpenter's Halloween. I watch every. Oh, and I also watch It's a Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, as well. So those are like the classics for me. So what we're gonna do, guys, we can decide how you guys want to go through this. Do you want to go through it by segment, since it is nonlinear? Do you want to go through it by segment, or do you want to go through it linearly? I vote by segment. And then we can vote what segment we like the best. And then that way, if the audience wants to watch it linear, through, it'll kind of be a little different. What do you think? By segment?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it by segment then. So the movie opens with this cold open, really. I guess I should say that. We have a cold open before the title sequence. We meet this couple coming home from a party. And basically we have the guy who's like into Halloween for the most part, and his wife who is 100% not into Halloween at all. Like, she completely hates it. She thinks it's stupid. She finds a smashed jack-o'-lantern. She just hates this holiday. And so her and her husband are talking. He's dressed up like a robot, by the way. Or like she's dressed up like a robot. He's dressed up like a spaceman. And
I thought he was dressed up like a medieval person who cut your head off.
No, I think he was.
Either way,
he had like a ray gun on his hip.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, I think he's supposed to be like.
I just thought it was like a wooden slingshot.
I think he's supposed to be like a Buck Rogers type spaceman. But either way, they have this dialogue, and he tells her, "You can't blow out the jack-o'-lantern before midnight on Halloween, or else the spirits will not be nowhere to roam," kind of thing. It's superstition. Yeah. And you've got to keep the jack-o'-lantern lit. And she's like, "That's stupid." She blows out the jack-o'-lantern. Meanwhile, we see like somebody watching from behind a car. We see somebody peeking, we see from their point of view somebody watching her. There's this great line. They're on the porch, and she's talking to her husband, and he says, hey, is tonight the night? And she's like, go ahead and start the videotape. So he goes upstairs to have wackadoo time, and she stays downstairs to clean up, basically. She's going to tear down all the decorations early. She doesn't care what he said. And she sees him, this point of view sees her blow out the jack-o'-lantern, throw it in the trash, and you hear a gasp, like an audible gasp. And then she sees this creepy guy staring at her from across the street. And then you realize that he's just waiting for his ride. He gets in, leaves. And so she's putting up the sheets, and all of a sudden she gets attacked by something. We don't know quite what it is yet. Mm-hmm. She gets attacked and is killed. And so then after that, he comes downstairs and finds her like mutilated remains with a lollipop shoved in her mouth. And then we go into the title sequence, which is a comic booky style creep show comic book opening. What do you guys think of this whole cold open?
Do you think they did that on purpose with the comic book thing?
Yes, 100%. They wanted it to feel like
that.
Yeah, they wanted to feel comic booky, like Creepshow, since it isn't a horror anthology. What do you guys think of the cold open?
I liked it because it was especially like once you get through the movie, right? And that's one of the best things about this movie is you're watching it, because it is kind of made like an anthology, but it's also completely intertwined with one another.
Yeah.
So it's unique in that way. And so you don't figure that out until later in the movie, but like, it's a really, it's a good opening because those are, at least the lady, I forget what her actual name is. She's kind of a well-known actress, and so to kill her off right at the beginning was like, oh.
Wasn't she the girl in the Fog remake?
Yes,
yeah, I think she was.
It's Maggie Grace, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes, and then we have some good other well-known actors that pop up in this later. Actually, the very next segment. So, I love the opening to this as well. It's really it sets the tone. What I really love about Trick or Treat is that it feels like it's set in fall, right?
Yes.
Like the aesthetic, the browns and the ambers. And like the leaves, and like you can feel like the chill in the air while you watch it. I feel like it just perfectly captures fall. So that opening sets the tone for everything because it's gory and spooky, but super fun. So that sets the things to come. Which, like you guys were saying, what's great about this is an anthology movie that is intertwined. So each segment has its own story, but you find out that these stories are happening at the same time in the same town with the same people. So it's not like a Tales from the Crypt situation or a creep show where each story is just a separate story. So the first piece we're going to go through is the principal. So this opens with Thurman Merman, Derek, from Bad Santa, walking down the street and deciding to just be a dick and knocking over jack-o'-lanterns, just smashing them. Just this bully kid. He goes up to the principal's house, and there is a candy bowl. And it's a Take One candy bowl, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's a Take One candy bowl. and he takes more than one. Like, grabs a shitload of them, right?
Oh yeah.
Like a
Well,
lot.
and yeah, and this is really where you get your first taste of how this movie intertwines, because he's walking down the street and he's destroying all these pumpkins, and so that harkens back to the
Opening.
scene we just came from where they had a smashed pumpkin.
Smashed pumpkin, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, he takes all these candy, and he's confronted by the principal, who's played by Dylan Baker, the great Dylan Baker. So he sits down and he basically starts having like a heart-to-heart with him about responsibilities and what have you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's talking to him about all this stuff, and gives him a candy. Says he can have a piece of candy, and he opens it and he's eating it. And as he's talking to the kid starts to his stomach starts to gurgle and stuff.
Yep.
And then he starts throwing up fucking black and brown bile and blood just starts coming out of his mouth. And he's
It's
like
vicious too, man.
Yeah.
It's
pretty intense. And he, dies with the principal right there. And we find out that the principal has poisoned the candy. And so he's like a serial killer, like a psychopath.
Oh yeah, man.
So, we're like, oh, okay, this is interesting. So he takes, during all of this, we find out that he has a son at home. And his son is trying to watch Charlie Brown, trying to do all this thing. So he drags the body to the back of the house to bury it in the backyard, right? And while he's going through this, he has Billy yelling at him, and he's like, "Billy, keep it down. I told you we'll carve the jack-o'-lantern after I'm done." And he's like, "Well, I keep having trouble with the eyes." He's like, "Well, I'll help you with the eyes when you're done. Just stop it." So then we're introduced to one of the funniest characters in the whole movie, which is his terrible-ass grumpy neighbor played by Brian Cox.
Yeah.
What do you guys think of Brian Cox's character? And this segment, not in the later one.
Well, his character is pretty terrible.
Yes, but in this segment, we don't know that yet.
Well, I mean...
Go ahead, Lydia, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of get the sense that he's just like...
Not a nice guy, yeah.
Not a nice person, yeah.
But then again, the other side is that there's a serial killer here. So...
Right.
Yeah, you know what I love? I love how you're introduced to a monster, and then it just keeps getting like more monstrous as you keep it, like peeling back the layers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and definitely the first introduction to the neighbor is like, this ridiculous curmudgeon, old neighbor who
he says some really funny shit to him, like he's just such a dick to him. Basically, he's like, "Hi, how's it going? Sorry, just trying to do this." He's like, "I don't give a fuck, keep it down."
Yeah.
Such an asshole.
I like how he says, like, "What are you doing? Like burying a body or something? Hide your body?"
Yeah, and he's like, "Oh no, sewer backed up. Oh, it smells like
shit."
Yeah.
So he's burying this body, and the kid comes alive. We find out that he's not the only one in this hole, and the kid comes alive. So he kills him. How's he kill him, Derek?
Oh, I mean, first he keeps stepping on him, and eventually he uses the shovel. I assume he impales him or decapitates him. Yeah,
decapitates him. Yeah.
So real quick, because he killed Thurman. That's how I'm going to refer to this kid. By the way, he looks a lot like my cousin, and I will demonstrate that in the video. But anyway, he poisons Thurman.
Yes.
So are you under the assumption that that's the only person that he poisoned with the candy, or all of them were poisoned?
I'm assuming that most of them were poisoned that were, at that point. So maybe Thurman...
Because he gives him a candy bar.
Yes.
Otherwise, I feel like, man, this guy just went on a crazy murdering spree, and they would find out who he is anyway.
Yeah, well, they wouldn't have I guess his goal would be they wouldn't have a way to trace it, and he would be the last person they suspect. We find out he's the principal of the school, right?
Yeah.
Because as he's covered in blood when Thurman Merman pukes on him, we get a knock on the door, and he answers it, and it's some trick-or-treaters.
Yep. Three kids
asking for pumpkins. And so he's like, yeah, sure. You can take the pumpkins. I don't care. You know, just like cool costume. And he's like, thanks. Because he's covered in puke blood.
Puke blood, yeah.
All over his shirt.
He looked really scared too, like that he didn't expect someone to like knock on the door.
Yeah, in that he was going to be caught because he's covered in puke blood.
Yeah. Well, and then one of the kids like definitely knows what, or has a suspicion that he knows what's going on, because you can see that he's like scared. It's this is also the part where you get, it might be the first introduction to Sam. Is that right? And it's hilarious because like whenever he takes the candy and he turns around and he walks off the porch, he's got like a dog or something in his bag.
Yeah.
And maybe a rat because he drags it down the stairs and it's like.
Yeah. Yeah, so the next trick-or-treater is Sam, which is the first time we actually see him. And we're going to say a lot about Sam in the final segment, but Sam is like the Santa Claus of Halloween. And he should be as well known as Santa Claus, in my opinion. I love Sam. So after he ends up going through the whole ordeal and he buries him, gets it done, he goes inside, and his son's still yelling, "Dad!" And you can see the stress. He's like really stressed out, and he's like cracking his neck. He grabs a big kitchen knife, right, off the thing, and he's like, "I'm down in the basement," and he walks in there with the knife. They set it up that you think he's going to murder his child.
Yeah.
And then instead he jabs it, and it's into a decapitated head. And he has his son sitting in front of him, and he's like, "I told you I always have trouble with the eyes." And he's going to start helping him carve the eyes out of this decapitated head.
It's Thurman, dude.
Thurman's decapitated head to end the segment. What do you guys think of this segment and the ending of it, especially?
Well, first of all, I was kind of confused because he's like in the bag in the ground outside while the kid is yelling, "Come help me with the eyes!" Like, but the kid is alive in the hole.
There's
so,
a second kid.
There's a second kid.
There's two kids.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, because the one that grabs his arm has like a clown costume or something on.
Yeah, it's a different kid. Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, well that clears that up.
What do you think? So we'll do like we did with Creep Show. We'll rate each segment if you want. You want to do that?
Sure.
Lydia?
How many segments are there?
Five.
4
or 5.
Yeah, not very much. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 segments in the opening and closing.
Are we rating them in order or just like
as we talk about it, we'll rate each one, and then we'll do the full what we think of the whole movie.
I'm going to break out my spreadsheet.
Or we don't have to. It's just we can just.
Personally, this one is probably my least favorite.
Okay.
Just because I really cannot watch the scene of the kid puking, being poisoned. Like, I cannot watch that. I mean, it's not only disgusting, but it's like a fear of mine to like be poisoned and die that way. So it's like, I don't know, maybe I'm just like super sensitive and paranoid for a horror fan, but like that is so graphic to me. Like I can watch a lot of horror and like seeing his head on the plate is fine, but like I look away every time that part comes on. Like I'm not watching that kid puke up blood like that.
Derek,
your thoughts on the first segment?
I thought I thought it was strong for an opening segment. And I think going into the movie, if you don't really have an understanding of how the movie is laid out, you're, once that segment ends, you're like, okay, well, where are they going to go from here? But it is very strong. I liked it a lot. It's not my favorite segment, but it's not my least favorite either. So
Yeah,
it's a
I
good
like
one.
it. I agree. I think it's a strong segment. I know what you mean, Lydia. It's gross, but it also is very. It sets the tone of the movie very well because it's very funny, and also dark and macabre at the same time. So it like walks that tightrope balance between the two, and I think that's why I enjoy it so much. And I enjoy Dylan Baker's teacher character because he's like just his principal is just so like disgusted with everything, and he's like thinks he's better than everyone and all of this stuff. So I really enjoyed that. But yeah, it's a strong. It's not my favorite either.
Yeah.
I
can't wait to. Go ahead.
I know what my favorite segment is, and I'm thinking it might be some of your guys's too.
I can tell you one thing. I love that they set him up as like the King Shark kind of character.
Yes, which we'll get into
I love
in the next
that.
segment. Yes, love it too. So yeah, we set the tone with him being this big, strong, like serial killer character, and he'll get his comeuppance. So the next segment is the Halloween school bus massacre. So in the Halloween school bus massacre, basically these kids, these three kids, show up at this girl named Hannah's house to take her, essentially to have them go with them to the water, this area, because she makes
the
the
rock
best
quarry.
the rock quarry because she creates the best jack-o'-lanterns, is what they tell her. Because she does. We see her house, and she's got this beautiful yard of just jack-o'-lanterns. As far
I
as
want that yard so bad.
the
How much
jack-o'-lanterns
money
are
she
amazing.
spent on pumpkins?
I told Jake and was like, I want to do that. Can I have that yard?
You'd have to grow your own, otherwise you spend a small fortune on just pumpkins.
I got a few plants growing out there.
Pumpkins?
Yeah, but
That's
they're
awesome.
the little pumpkins.
So you just do a scaled down version of it,
Yeah.
with like mini tiny faces.
That'd be so cute.
Look at all the little tiny faces, and then have a big one eating a small one. That's my contribution to it, to your yard, your pumpkin yard. I think it's great.
That's hilarious.
So basically, there's a jock character here, like a nice guy character. His name is what is it? Chip. Is Chip the nice one?
Is it Chip Carroll?
It's not Chip Carroll. Nobody will get that joke, but you, me, and like Joey.
Nobody else has to get that joke but me, you, and Joey.
Jesus. But anyway, so he kind of smooth talks her into coming because he's like real nice to her and tells her, hey, I really want you to come along. And she kind of has a crush on this guy. She kind of swings. So Hannah is kind of different. She marches to the beat of a different drum. She dresses different. She's kind of witchy. And basically you can tell that she's an outcast, right?
Yeah.
And so they take her down to the rock quarry. And as she's on her way down to the rock quarry, she sees, we see Sam. And then they get onto the elevator and take it all the way down to the bottom. And once they get down there, they tell the story of the Halloween School Bus Massacre, which is basically there was this school for mentally challenged children, and they were burdened on their parents. So the parents had been so fed up with their children, terrible, terrible people, that they paid the bus driver to essentially handcuff them all in restraints on the school bus and take it over the rock quarry. All of the kids are dressed in Halloween costumes. This takes place in the 60s. All of them are dressed in Halloween costumes. Like the main one is dressed as Dracula. He's wearing a Dracula mask. And this is the most heartbreaking segment
For
to me.
sure.
Because I just
Yeah.
feel, as I'm just like, so the one kid realizes that they passed his home. And he's saying, home, home, I want to go home. So the bus driver takes them all there, drops a candy bar in each one, and he gets out of the bus. And he's kind of like thinking about it, you know, what he's been asked to do, what he's supposed to do here. Well, meanwhile, the kid...
He doesn't actually make it out of the bus.
Yeah, right. He's just thinking about it. And the main kid
gets out of his restraints.
Breaks his restraints and
runs to the front of the bus.
And runs to the front of the bus to take it and drives it off of the quarry. They all go in. The bus driver escapes out of it, crawls out of it, out of the water. And all of the children drown. So the urban legend is this happened. They never caught the bus driver. And if, you know, you take the pumpkins down there to basically as an altar to them, right? Is kind of how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, I think so.
Basically, you're giving it a sacrifice to them. You know, here's our offering to them. So they tell her this whole story, and then they start hearing stuff and run off, and all of a sudden the one kid starts getting attacked, and his gut starts being ripped out, and another person gets attacked and by the zombie people. And so her and the boy run into the elevator, and she's terrified. She's crying, whimpering, and that's when he finally calls it off because it was all just a big practical joke to scare her. Well, that's when she turns. She realizes that these are terrible people. They only took her down there to be mean to her and make fun of her. So the one bitchy student, the leader of the clique, decides it'd be cool to kick the jack-o'-lantern into the quarry, which of course wakens the actual zombie kids, who wrecks them. Like, actually starts eating them for real, killing every single kid. It gets to the point where the boy runs to the elevator where she is waiting because the jack-o'-lanterns are keeping her safe at bay. She runs to the elevator, and she just stares at him as she hits the button.
Well, she grabs the key.
Yep.
And then she goes and she hits the button.
Yeah.
And just leaves them there, and they get everything that they deserve.
Yeah. So she leaves them to the zombie kids.
Bastards.
And as she's leaving with her pumpkins, she sees Sam watching over her.
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys... There's a lot to unpack there. What do you guys think of this segment?
I love it. I think it's a great segment. That could be a whole movie, I feel like. Yeah, I don't know. It's really good. That little girl, the kids did amazing.
Yeah.
But that little girl is just awesome.
Yeah. The girl that plays Hannah. Yeah, she's great in it. Derek.
You know, it's like they backed up a dump truck of tragedy and just dumped it all over this segment. Because you have the underlying story of the handicapped children that essentially get killed because their parents are tired of having them. That's so sad, man.
Awful people, yeah.
That is so sad. You know, and then you get these 4 kids that are essentially bullying and tormenting this. And I imagine she's autistic or something along those lines. She had some, you know, something going on. Yeah. And so, othered. Yeah. And so then you have them playing this terrible practical joke on them. Now, I'm not saying that I wouldn't have done it to anybody that, you know, that kind of fit that bill. But, you know, you might do it to your friends. but not to somebody who could literally traumatize.
Well, and
for the
also
rest
not
of
to
their
somebody
life.
that's not already your friend, right? I mean,
Right,
we've done some fucked up shit to each other, but we know each other.
Yeah, you know, we never take it too far, and they definitely took it too far when she fell down and she hit her head.
Yeah,
You know, and I mean
and if
that
she's
in and of
crying,
itself,
yeah,
could have ended, you know, pretty poorly. So, yeah, whenever she's riding up that elevator and she's just watching these 3 kids get eaten alive by these ghost zombies, you just can't help but have a little bit of satisfaction in that.
no, absolutely agree. I love this segment too. Like you said, it's a good way to put it, the dump truck of tragedy, because there is so many tragic elements to it, but it's also a quite empowering segment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's this segment where this bullied person gets basically revenge, and she doesn't even have to do anything. She just is spared because she respected the dead.
Yeah.
Essentially, she respected the dead, and her respect of the dead kept her safe.
Yeah.
She was a smart girl.
Which is why I think Sam was sitting there.
Well, I also like that she had a really good understanding of the history of the Celtic legends. I mean, she was trying to tell
Of Halloween.
the little pirate kid. She was trying to tell him some of the stuff as they're walking to this rock quarry, and he's just like, "Hey."
There's a bit in here that really cracked me up that I glossed over. When they're trying to gather pumpkins for it, they go to this woman's house, and they're 100% having a swinger tea party.
100%.
She's dressed as a cat, and she's like, "You want to come in?" To these like underage.
No, she asked him if she wanted a drink. It's just our little secret.
Yeah, that's it. So funny. And she's like, "Why was he dressed like a hot dog?"
Well, wasn't it the coach was dressed like a hot dog and he was butt humping a pig?
Yeah, butt fucking a pig. Oh God.
Oh yeah. Every town's got a club, you know.
You know, yeah, we had ours, Derek.
We never partook in that. I don't know what you're talking about.
No, I'm saying we had our teachers that, you know.
Ah, I see.
Up. Yes.
I gotcha.
All you have to do is search in our area for PE teachers, and you'll know what I'm talking about.
Poor bastard.
So yeah, I love this segment. It's a super strong segment as well. So then we get this next segment, which this next segment is intertwined, like most of them are, but this one's intertwined literally throughout the entire run of the movie, which is you have Anna Paquin playing a girl that's out with her sisters, and basically she's talking about losing her virginity, you know. And she's, you know, it's time, you got to lose it. So you got to do all this stuff, you got to do all that stuff. And, like, there's some really funny beats in there. They go to basically a store to search for costumes, a costume shop, and they're being, like, perved on by this little kid at one point. And she ends up dressing up as Little Red Riding Hood. And she's like, "Don't you guys think it's a little too on the nose?" They're like, "No, it's great. You look great." And they're all like, you know, about it. So they start flirting with the deadly cashier and being like, "Hey, you want to hook up with, you know, well, blah, blah, I've got to get off. You know, I get off at such and such time." And so this whole time you're thinking that she's trying to lose her virginity. And she's like, "I don't really know if I want to do this. I don't know the right guy, you know, I want it to be special." And she's like, "Everybody says they want it to be special. And trust me, honey, it usually never is." You know, that sort of bit.
I would say hers is quite special, actually.
Yeah, yes, it ends up being. So, meanwhile, in the same time frame, there's a vampire on the loose, it seems. We see a woman at the party, at like the whole town celebration, starts like making out with this guy, and he's like dressed like a phantom, has like the black mask and the cape and everything, and he starts kissing her or whatever, and and then she starts realizing that she's bleeding, and you see that he has fangs, and she basically bleeds out on the party in front of everybody. But they think she's part of the show, so they just move on, thinks it's costume, and the vampire moves on. So she decides she doesn't want to hook up with that cashier guy. Anna Paquin does.
And wasn't her friend hooks up with the cashier?
Yes, her friend hooks up with him.
And her friend tries to hook her up with Babyface.
With the baby-faced weird kid.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, that's right. Tries to hook her up with and she's like, oh, as if, what? Ew.
She goes, what, is he cute? And she's like, yeah, and he's got a great personality, so he's ugly.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, that's offensive, thank you.
So we see the vampire guy, like, basically take a liking to Red.
Oh, yeah.
And
who wouldn't?
No, exactly. Exactly, who wouldn't? Anna Paquin's a very attractive woman. So she's walking alone in the woods, Little Red Riding Hood, of course. And she's basically attacked by the vampire. And he's saying, like, little jokes about, huffing and puffing and all this stuff. And he's like this big, macho, like, alpha. And then he attacks and, we cut to black. And then the next thing we know, they're at the party. We see the one guy, like, eating some food, like the weird baby-faced guy. He's right here. We see all of these beautiful girls and these cuddly guys and weird cashier guy, all this stuff. And all of a sudden, a figure drops in the Red Riding Hood cape. What the heck is that?
Heck is what?
Oh, did you hear it?
Yeah.
Did you hear it, Lynn?
Was it cracking?
Yeah.
That was the chair I'm sitting on. Like, these chairs are terrible.
It sounded like a really loud applause back there.
Sorry about that, Derek. I'm glad we pointed that out. No, you.
It was like slap, slap, slap.
We didn't address it. People would have been wondering the same thing.
We'll just cut this bit out. What's the timestamp? It's like a minute too.
This is the best.
This
is the best bit. We've got to keep
it.
I say we keep it. So
we'll keep it.
A caped figure drops, and the sisters all gather around it because she's caped in the Red Riding Hood stuff. They pull it off, and they see it's the vampire, bloody and whimpering like a coward. And that's when we finally realize who the vampire is. And who's the vampire, guys?
It's the principal.
Yeah, it's the principal. And we realize not only is he trying to kill kids, he just kills anybody. He's a fucking psycho, this guy.
Yeah. Well, he even mentions, like, in the first segment that he's got a date later.
Yes. And so he goes on his date, and, the hunter became the prey, is essentially what happens here. Because we find out that the first wasn't in terms of virginity. It was her first wolf transformation and her first live human that she's going to eat. Because they are all a pack
of werewolves. Yeah.
Pack of werewolves. All right. So, there's this really great transformation scene where all of the werewolves start changing and they start feasting on all of these unsuspecting males who thought they were the prey, but they thought they were the hunters, but they were the prey. And what's the line she says to him? What big eyes you have? Is that what it is?
Oh, yeah. Oh, what big eyes you have.
Yes. Yeah. What do you guys think of this segment?
It's my favorite.
It's your favorite segment?
Yeah. I mean, from the beginning of it, and I think it's intertwined with another, it might be this segment. Anyway, whenever they're in the costume shop and they're like trying on the costumes, and like their banter that they're having back and forth, and you're just like, and the lady's like, "Ladies, there are children."
Yeah.
And but then once you realize like what they are, if you go back to the conversation that they were having, it has a whole different context.
Yes. The
And I
context
love
matters,
that, yeah. And also the elf dude, the cashier. If you're ever at a party and you're surrounded by chuds and all hot girls, you need to leave because
Yeah.
something bad's about to happen.
Yeah. Some bad news. Lydia, what's your thoughts on this segment?
I really like this one a lot. I don't know if it's my favorite, but it's definitely up there. And this one stood out to me. Like I said, I watched this in high school, and this is always the scene I think of when I think of this movie. So it's definitely impactful. That first time you realize that they are werewolves, and like their whole conversation that you just watched did not mean what you thought it meant, is great.
Yeah. I also love this segment. I remember first time I watched it, like, oh, okay. Yeah, I had no idea that they were werewolves at first. And then once that reveal happens, it's great. It's fantastic because you think the monster of that story is a vampire.
Yeah.
That's what you're led to believe. You're misdirected to believe the monster of the story is going to be a vampire and these girls have to fight a vampire. But instead, we're thrown on our heads and find out that actually this guy is an idiot pretending to be a vampire, and he just got messed up by some werewolves.
By the way, karma is a biatch.
Yeah, it gets people in this movie for sure.
Yeah, I love that reveal as well. It's him.
I love Sam sitting on the logs, watching the whole thing happen, because he's interspersed through out all of these segments.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get to the last segment, which is called Sam, where the good old neighbor we find out is Krieg, right? Yeah, it's Mr. Wilkins' neighbor, Krieg, and it's played by the fantastic Brian Cox. And we find out that he hates Halloween, hates everything to do with Halloween. Some kids come up to trick or treat, and he sends this scary looking dog thing at him, and they run off, and you find out it's this little yappy dog with like this.
Dude, I'm totally gonna buy a dog for no other reason than have it for Halloween and do this to some kids. Put some glowing eyes on him and open the door and it would be really dark. Oh my god, that would be horrible.
Cracks me up. So we find out that he just hates everything Halloween. Doesn't like candy. Doesn't just nothing. He does take one of the kids' candy bars that they dropped because he's like, why not? But he's flipping through the channels and you like everything about the he sees stuff on Halloween and he's hating all of it, turning all of it, just not into Halloween at all. When we find out why he's not into Halloween, because we start to realize that he is the bus driver from the Halloween massacre. So his hatred of Halloween comes from what happened that day, which is understandable, except that he was party to it. It was his thing, So then he gets a trick-or-treater, and it's Sam, looking as cute as ever. And they get in. Eventually, they get into this big blowout fight in the house. So some crazy shit happens throughout this fight. There's this great scene where Krieg goes upstairs, and he hears a noise upstairs, so he takes his gun. And he goes up, and basically it's Sam in the room. Mm-hmm. And he attacks him. And
well, first he sees that mechanical hand.
Yes.
What is it, like a mummy hand?
Yeah.
That's
crawls.
So cool. Yeah, got to get one of those.
Yeah, those are cool. Yeah, so then he's attacked by Sam. because Sam saw him turn away trick-or-treaters and also knows who he is. So he's like, I'm not a fan of this, you know. So he throws him against the wall. He fucks up Krieg's leg. And eventually, Krieg ends up blowing off his hand and shooting him in the head. After he unmasks him. He unmasks Sam, we realize that Sam is a pumpkin-headed
head. Yeah.
Like a pumpkin-headed freak. Like he's a jack-o'-lantern underneath. Pumpkin pie haircutted freak.
He's a monster.
He's a monster, Sam is. So he shoots off his hand and shoots him in the head. And then Sam puts himself back together. It's all pumpkin guts. So the pumpkin guts start to reform, reforms his hand, reforms him, and eventually it rips his mask open, and he takes a bite of his lollipop, and he goes to stab Krieg with it, and when he hits him, it's he stabs the candy bar. So he raises it up and just decides, oh, I'm going to eat this candy bar. And he leaves him. He just walks out. So then we cut and then see Krieg. He's all bandaged up. And he's now handing out candy to kids with jack-o'-lanterns and shit. Because he got the spirit of Halloween thrown back into him. So he's handing the candy out and stuff. And then he gets a knock on the door. And he opens it up, and it's all the zombie kids from the quarry saying "trick or treat," and they all come in, and we get that comic book freeze of him like being basically ripped apart by the zombie kids, and we end that segment. What do you guys think of this segment?
It's perfect.
It is. It's a nice little bow to tie it all together. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, this is my favorite segment. This is my favorite segment of all of them. I love that we get to see so much of Sam. I love Sam's design. I love how he basically is forcing the spirit of Halloween into this guy and also getting retribution for the stuff that he did in the past. His comeuppance with the kids. I love how once Sam leaves, he walks out and we see all the other characters. This is where they all intertwine. We see that the principal's son is wearing his shirt, handing out candy. We see Hannah pulling her wagon full of jack-o'-lanterns. We see the girls walk by. And then that's where Sam is kind of just taking in the lay of the land, and that's when he sees the girl blow out the jack-o'-lantern, and we go back to the beginning. At that point, realize that the beginning was actually the ending of everything.
Mm-hmm.
So that was Trick or Treat. What are your guys' thoughts on Trick or Treat? Let's start with you, Derek.
So I do like how they intertwined every aspect of this movie. It did jump around a little bit, and at times you were kind of like, you had to get your bearings and be like, where am I in this? Okay, this is where I'm at. But I did like that aspect. And it was a great movie overall. It was very entertaining, and I had a lot of fun watching it.
Lydia, what are your thoughts on Trick or Treat?
I think it's a masterpiece.
It's pretty close.
It's like mind-blowing to me that they haven't made more like this. But I imagine it's probably pretty hard to make such a good movie. So, and you don't want it to be like too similar. You know, I mean, do you have another Sam story, or do you, I mean, you almost have to have Sam in it.
Yeah, Sam will 100% be in it. Yeah, Sam would have to be in it. He'd be the through line to everything. Yeah, I would imagine.
He's so cool. He is perfect.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I love this movie. I think it also is a masterpiece, near masterpiece at least. And Sam is just the coolest mascot. He's the mascot for Halloween. It's
Mhm.
Michael Myers and Sam. I mean, that's Halloween, right? Um, let's get our pumpkin ratings real fast. Derek, what are you going to rate this one?
I'm gonna rate this one out 8.
8.
An 8.
Wow, that was special. So 8 out of 10 pumpkins for you.
8 out of 10.
Lydia, what's your pumpkin rating for this?
I think I'm gonna give this one a 9.
Yeah.
I think it's that good.
No, Hey, you're not going to get an argument out of me. I am personally going to give this movie a 9.5. It is
Come on.
so close to a 10. I'm saving my 10. But
Don't save it.
This
Give
is
them
as
out.
close to a 10 as you're going to get. I mean, for at least a couple more weeks. Let's just throw it out there. It's going to happen. But this is one of my, like I said, this is in my Halloween rotation. I think it's one of the best. It's one of the best movies about the holiday of Halloween, just in general. I think.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think it's one of the best. It's one of the best anthology movies, and it created a great character in Sam, like just the perfect Halloween mascot. And the fact that he came up with, Michael Dougherty came up with him, and then was like, well, this is what he looks like, and he's the cutest, most awesome thing ever. And you're just like, I wish Sam would hang out with me.
Oh, Sam is gonna hang out with me. You better believe 1 year. Clark is gonna go with Sam. Yeah.
Yeah. You should.
We've got to hit Chucky, and we got to hit Sam while he's within this age bracket.
You know who else you should hit? You should hit the dwarves from Phantasm.
Yeah, we could do that.
People might think you're Jawas, and that'll work just fine too.
I've really got to fight my wife on this stuff.
Well, just because she wants him to be some lame shit.
Like a dinosaur. Yeah, I know.
Listen, when I was in kindergarten, I went as Freddy Krueger for Halloween.
Did you really?
I did. So the year before that, I was Beetlejuice. And then when I was in kindergarten, on Halloween, I went as so for the school party. So we had 2 parties in kindergarten, basically. So during the day for Halloween, my parents made me go to school dressed as the Ultimate Warrior.
Because your parents made you?
They didn't feel it was appropriate for me to be Freddy Krueger, a child murderer, during kindergarten class. So they made me be Ultimate Warrior. But that night for Halloween, at the actual school party that we got to go to at the bowling alley and for actual trick-or-treating, I was Freddy. And it was awesome.
You're cut from a different cloth, man.
There's a great picture of me with my grandpa, my dad's dad. My grandpa Bob, who was like one of my biggest influences in my life. And there's a great picture of me as a kindergarten Freddy pretending to cut off his ear because I had just watched Freddy's Dead.
That's awesome.
So I'll try to find a picture of that and we'll put it up here if we can find it. But there's definitely a picture of me as Freddy on Halloween or in kindergarten. So guys, any other thoughts on Trick or Treat besides the fact that we want a sequel, right? I mean, we need a sequel.
Yeah, we do.
Any other
we
thoughts?
We need one. Like, why haven't they done that yet? Come on.
From what I read, actually, I just read this earlier today because I was thinking about it. I was like, why don't we have a sequel to this? And Michael Dougherty announced in 2009 that he was planning the sequel. And then a sequel was announced in October of 2013, but there is a change in Legendary's management, and it never went through because of regime change. And that's a Hollywood thing. Regime changes, they like to just cancel everything that the previous guy had greenlit out of ego, essentially. So I'll tell you what, if I became a regime change, if I was a studio exec, and they were like, Well, John had greenlit Trick or Treat 2. I'd say, shit, yeah, keep that on the slate.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if it was my idea. It's going through.
And he
We'll get
probably had signed over all the rights to that to them.
Yeah, I'm guessing so.
That's terrible.
Here's hoping. Let's knock on wood, and let's hope that we get a Trick or Treat 2. It'll happen eventually. I think it'll happen eventually.
You know what? I would have made a sequel and just called it Trickin' and Treatin'.
Jesus Christ.
Tricking and treating.
You go, tricking ain't easy.
That's
Oh
right.
my gosh. Amazing.
You could call it Tricks and Treats.
There you go.
And that way, since it's a sequel. Or you could call it Truckin' and Fucking.
You're getting into a different genre there.
I think your brother would star in that one.
Yeah, we're definitely getting into a different genre.
Oh my god. So, what's next week's movie, guys?
I got it pulled up here. It is Wolfman.
Lydia, this is your pick, right?
This is
Original,
my pick.
right?
Yeah, tell
Yep.
us which version we're watching, and
The original.
Is there anywhere they can find it?
Nope.
Do you know if it's?
Good luck.
I actually think Quincy has a copy of this.
I think she does. Yeah, I have a copy of this.
Okay, so
I'm-
we all have a copy. So
We do. Let's let our viewers know where they can.
viewers, just go buy it. You need it.
I bet you can probably watch it on like Turner Classic Movies or something like that.
You might be able to since it's
Definitely
around
can.
Halloween. So it's free on Peacock. Well, no, that's the new one. Let me put in the. What year is that, guys? 1941, right?
I was gonna say
Yeah, it is 1941.
1930.
It is on Prime Video. Let me actually do this way so it'll actually work. So yes, it is on Prime Video. You can buy it from, so you have to rent it or buy it from Prime Video, Apple TV, YouTube, Google, Vudu. So it's available on those sites to watch if you don't already own it. I recommend picking it up. It's a great one. We'll get into it next week. What, Derek?
I actually think mine might be in storage now that I think about it. Anyway,
Well, we can just share it amongst ourselves if we have to.
there we go.
We'll have Lydia upload it to the cloud.
Does she know how to do any of that?
Yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll cut all this.
Does she know? Does she know how to do it? Is the question.
Lydia's smart. She'll figure it out. She'll figure it out. She always does.
I'll
So-
Google it.
Go to one of those streaming sites or buy the Universal DVD set or Blu-ray. They have a great monster movie Blu-ray set. Universal does, which is fantastic. I have the DVD versions with the Dracula and Wolfman combinations and stuff. So that's what we're watching next week. So be sure to check that out before next week. Again, don't forget to like, subscribe, leave some comments so then we can put them on the air and answer your questions. We'll have some news coming up about some potential new things coming out. That'll be exciting. We're working on the movie. It'll be out soon. We'll give you an update on that as well. Derek and I just spent an entire weekend editing, so that was fun. We got a lot done, right, Derek?
We did get a lot done.
Anything else I'm forgetting, guys? Like, subscribe, the Facebook page, the YouTube channel, the follow me on Twitter I'm at Racket. We have an Instagram at. Well, there you go.
Cool.
There you go. So remember, folks, that's the way the cookie crumbles.
Finally.
Anyway, for Lydia Judy and Derek Lemaster, I'm Jamie Hiles. And remember, if you're going to scream,
Scream bloody movies.
scream bloody movies. Good night, folks.